Everyone. At the final stretch of today, thank you to everyone still with us. I think I'm going to be leaving today with so many reflections and thoughts, and I think also really tangible calls to action and things to do. And I hope everyone feels the same. Um, the next part of today, I will be introducing our policy competition winner. Part of this symposium, outside of our arts competition winner, which was the incredible Mabel earlier today in sharing her poem, we also had a policy submission competition about what does courageous policy look like for an alternative first response and what is missing currently and what needs to be invested in by decision makers to make a good alternative response not only exist but be sustainable and long term and become hopefully the new first response. We had a lot of submissions, and all of them were incredibly nuanced, thought out, and articulated such great answers. We put them into a shortlist, an anonymous shortlist, and handed it over to our chair that you got to hear from earlier today. And she came back to us with the winning submission, and the winning submission was by Marissa Williamson Pohlman. And I'll just wait for her to join me on the screen. Beautiful. Hi, Marissa. Oh, try again. I think can't hear. While I read your bio, you might just need to tinker with your microphone, but good timing because what I'll do in introducing Marissa, when we saw that Marissa was the winner and said, send a bio, let us know who you are, what are you about. Um, So we have an impressive young person today joining us with this policy submission, and she did tell me to take bits and pieces from her bio, but I've decided against that. I'm going to read the whole thing today and share it with you all, and then I'll be handing it over to Marissa with some questions around why she put in the submission and some other things that came out from the submission as well. So I'll get started and I'll introduce Marissa. So, Marissa Williamson Pohlman is a proud Ngarrindjeri woman with kinship ties to Wurundjeri, Wurrung, Quandamooka, and Yiniji lands. Marissa moves between a few different worlds. An Olympian, a policy advocate, a law student, and a community organiser, but at the heart of everything Marissa does is a commitment to justice, dignity, and self-determination for her people. Marissa spent 5 years in out-of-home care and lived in 16 foster placements before she was 18. Boxing entered her life when she walked into a police citizen youth club in Melbourne's West, and it gave Marissa a sense of discipline, identity, and belonging that she hadn't had before. 6 years later, in 2024, she became the first Aboriginal woman to represent Australia boxing at the Olympic Games, and I hope all the emojis come up from that. Marissa has since competed for Australia at the World Championships, won Pacific Games gold, and became the first woman to receive the Arthur Tunsil Trophy. She's now working towards the LA 2028 Olympic Games. Outside of sport, Marissa works in policy at the Victorian Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation, also known as VACCO, focusing on designing an Aboriginal-led model of healthcare inside Victorian prisons. This has taken Marissa inside prisons across the state to speak directly with Aboriginal people in custody about their health rights and what community control looks like in places designed to disconnect Aboriginal people. Before VACCO, she worked within government and traditional owner organisations and alongside grassroots justice campaigns and volunteered with Senator Lydia Thorpe's office advocating across issues of sovereignty, prisons, health and policing. She's currently studying a Bachelor of Laws and International Relations at Monash University, inspired in part by her own experiences navigating the legal system and by seeing firsthand the impact that culturally grounded legal advocacy can have. Whether she's in the boxing ring, a policy meeting, a lecture theatre, or sitting in a circle with community, Marissa's purpose remains the same: to use every platform she has to push for a world where Aboriginal people are not simply surviving systems, but redesigning them. I'm glad I took the time to read out that whole bio because I think it speaks volumes to your work, Marissa. And a big congratulations to being our policy winner.
Thank you. Hopefully my microphone's working now.
Good, beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it
All
is
good, all
okay.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Um,
just to start off with, we wanted to ask, I guess, what inspired you to make a submission, and in your sustainability framework, you called for just at the framework to be sustainable. So what inspired you to make a submission?
I'm going to read my answers because I wanted to give it some thought, but also I was a bit nervous and I probably will get emotional. But before I do that, as per cultural protocols, I would like to acknowledge that I meet on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. To answer your question, over the past 2 years, I have followed the work of the National Justice Project closely. This began after navigating my own legal matter when I received an extraordinary level of care and dignity from pro bono lawyers, particularly Professor George Newhouse. Before this, I was considering studying law, but doubted whether it was possible for someone like me. That experience fundamentally shifted my trajectory. I realized that I wanted to be able to provide the same care and advocacy for others that was extended to me. When National Justice Project launched the Alternative First Responders campaign, I immediately felt compelled to contribute. This urgency came from both lived experience and policy practice. From my lived experience in out-of-home care, there was a period when I was living in Aboriginal housing in Ballarat with my mother. I frequently absconded due to ongoing family violence. Rather than being met with care, I was arrested multiple times and thrown in the back of divvy vans. My trauma was treated as a behavioral problem rather than a cry for safety. What I needed was a compassionate, culturally safe response. That moment could have been an intervention of care, instead it was one of criminalisation. Professionally, I now work as a policy officer at the Victorian Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation after transitioning from a background in cultural heritage and on-country work. For the past 6 months, I've been part of designing an Aboriginal model of custodial healthcare. Through yarning circles with Aboriginal men in custody, I heard countless stories of systemic neglect. Their experiences were deeply familiar. Our lives could have easily been interchangeable had I not had the right supports at the right time. That recognition sits heavy with me. I also sit on the Aboriginal Housing and Homelessness Forum in Victoria, where a brother recently shared his experiences of homelessness and incarceration. He explained that housing alone was not the solution he needed. He needed multidisciplinary, culturally grounded support. He credits Ngualla and Motherwurrung Aboriginal Co-op entry program for his survival. His testimony affirmed that community-led, culturally anchored interventions are not just effective, they are life-saving. And these narratives were the heart of my submission.
Absolutely. And I think everyone listening can see why your submission would have been so telling, and also our winning submission as well. At a lot of your policy submission, you really center First Nations communities and organizations as a focus. Why is it important for you to focus on this?
Well, Aboriginal community-controlled organisations were formed in the 70s as an assertion of sovereignty and survival, because our people were historically and continue to be excluded from mainstream systems of care. ACCOs exists because the system failed us and continues to fail us. The evidence is clear. ACCOs deliver better health outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples because their model is holistic, relational, and grounded in culture, unlike the reactive, symptom-focused approach of Western service design. Aboriginal people are the most incarcerated population in the world, and Aboriginal women are the fastest growing prison demographic in the country. These realities demand urgent interrogation of government systems and not our people. Coupled with the crisis of Aboriginal deaths in custody, knowing a person is 12 times more likely to die after being incarcerated, it becomes undeniable that current responses are not just ineffective, but they're harmful. My advocacy is driven by love for my people and community. I carry this work knowing I stand on the shoulders of formidable leaders like Lydia Thorpe, Bruce McGuinness, Gary Foley, Alma Thorpe, and so many others who have held the line for generations.
Thank you, Marissa. In your policy submission, you highlight key features that should be embedded in a national framework, such as long-term funding and community-defined evaluations. Why is it important to have these features to ensure that responses are appropriate and effective?
I say long-term issues require long-term funding, and it's that simple. The Australian government's ongoing failure to meet closing the gap targets is no mystery. It's a direct reflection of short-term crisis-driven funding cycles that keep community organisations operating in survival mode rather than enabling them to thrive. As Senator Lydia Thorpe recently pointed out in Senate estimates last week, millions of dollars are allocated for Aboriginal outcomes continue to be funneled into institutions like the NRL, AFL, and police, rather than community-controlled organisations. Imagine the transformation if those funds were placed into Aboriginal-led trusts to build organisational wealth and sustainability. That would be self-determination in practice, not rhetoric. I also called for community-defined evaluation methods because Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are not a homogenous group. Each nation, each community holds distinct cultural protocols, governance structures, and priorities. Expecting a single evaluation metric applied through a Western lens to measure our success is inappropriate. Community must define what success looks like for them.
Thank you, Marissa. You call for a national framework with federal and state cost sharing. Can you explain why this approach would be best and why you put that forward?
Federal and state governments both hold responsibility for the harms that have shaped our communities. With that shared responsibility must come shared investment. ACCOs and Black-owned organisations to build economic strength, not just survive from pilot to pilot. If I receive one more funding round invitation for a short-term pilot tied up in conditional reporting and restrictive partnerships, I will say plainly, this is not the self-determination. We do not need to continually prove our worth or compete against each other for survival level funding. We need direct investment, trust, and economic autonomy. The truth is, I have never seen a statistic on deaths that occurred under the care of ACCOs, but I have seen the endless statistics of Aboriginal deaths in hospitals, in prisons, and in police custody. That contrast alone tells us where investment should be going.
Absolutely, here. And to finish it off as well, is that we are seeing community organisations working and working well. As alternative first responders have also do have a lack of courageous policy within government. If you could speak to government right now, what would be one courageous policy change you would mention?
I say invest directly in ACCOs without competitive tendering, without pilot programs, without paternalistic oversight. Resource Aboriginal community-controlled organisations to build long-term economic trust funds and infrastructure. This is not charity, this is justice. It is reparative. You cannot undo genocide or colonisation, but you can transfer power and resources. And that is what self-determination looks like in policy, not just in language. You hold the purse strings, but we hold the solutions.
Fantastic line to end on, Marissa. And outside of the questions, if you have any last, burning thoughts you wanted to share with us, otherwise we can wrap it up for the day. And I would encourage everyone to make sure to follow your journey to the next Olympic Games. And I often you do call outs for support as well, and making sure you get there and get there well. So we'll make sure that we share all the details around your Olympic journey as well. So any last thoughts?
Probably last thoughts is just how moved I've been today, and just hearing, especially our Indigenous women, talking about not just in this country but internationally about the work that they're doing for their community. A lot of the time, our women, they're the backbone and the forefront of the community, and they should be treated as such. But also to my community here in Victoria, it's been a hard week listening to the treaty being debated in Parliament. It's been a long time coming, and we need treaty now. That's the first step. It's not the destination, it's the journey. So I just wanted to end with that.
Yeah, and thank you for that reminder of the big event happening with treaty, and how we can also, because that's a call on all of us to follow that along and support the calls by Mob and Victoria and what they're asking, and making sure that we all support as well. So thank you for that reminder, and thank you again for your incredible submission and your thoughts, and already the leader, not even future leader, current leader of in this space, and for radical change in policy as well. So thank you, Marissa.
Thanks, Chloe.